Alzheimer's disease by Taeyoon Kim, Biology Block B. First, let's begin with the other names that exist for AD. There are four other names AD has: Alzheimer's disease, just Alzheimer's, and senile dementia of the Alzheimer type, or SDAT. Now let's talk about what it is. Alzheimer's is an irreversible, incurable brain disease that over time destroys one's memory and thinking skills and eventually the ability to carry out the simplest tasks in daily life. AD is also the most common cause of dementia. Now let's talk about the two main types of Alzheimer's disease. First is early onset. Early onset is a very rare type of AD occurring only in 5% of all cases. It occurs in people from 30 to 60 years of age. Researchers have found that mutations in certain genes cause most cases of early onset AD. If a parent has any of these genetic mutations, his or her child has a 50-50% chance of inheriting the mutated gene and developing early onset AD. Last but not least, the one remaining type of AD, late onset. Late onset is the most common form of AD. It develops in people after the age of 60. There is only one known cause for this variation of AD, a gene that makes APOE. I'll talk more about this in the later part of my presentation. Let's proceed to the next slide. Yes, the stages and symptoms of Alzheimer's. AD is divided into three major stages: mild, moderate, severe Alzheimer's. The level of severity of the symptoms for each stage is basically defined by the name of the stage. During mild AD, some of the major symptoms are resisting change or new things, loses interest in life, doesn't start anything, memory loss, reactions begin to drag or people become sluggish and they don't want to think, and trouble organizing and thinking logically. During moderate AD, the symptoms are inability to organize thoughts or follow logical explanations, memory thinking skills gets worse, unusual physical actions become more frequent, and they become more and more dependent on others. Furthermore, people with moderate AD cannot be left alone for safety precautions. During severe Alzheimer's, the last stage, random physical actions and reactions become very frequent, such as repetitively crying out, patting, or touching everything. And also, thinking skills drop terribly, such as forgetting to swallow. And internal body functions are lost, specifically the loss of control of bowel and bladder, and appearance is altered by losing weight and skin becoming thin and tearing easily. You might be curious, why do these things occur? Well, the answer to that is that AD's main workplace is situated in the brain. In the brain, it disrupts vital chemical processes. Neurons cease to work, and they also lose connection with other neurons, eventually killing them, thus causing memory failure, personality changes, and other symptoms mentioned previously. However, that isn't all. Let's look into the details, shall we? One of the main things found in the human brain that has developed AD are amyloid plaques. These are largely insoluble deposits situated in spaces between neurons. These deposits are of an apparently toxic protein peptide or fragment known as beta amyloid, plus different kinds of nerve and non-nerve cells and others. The other main thing found in the human brain that has developed AD are neurofibrillary tangles. Chief components of these tangles is a protein called Thull. Healthy neurons are internally supported in part by structures called microtubules. Tau, which has a certain number of phosphate molecules attached to it, binds to microtubules and stabilizes them. However, in AD, an abnormally large amount of additional phosphate molecules attached to tau, known as hyperphosphorylation. This causes the tau to disengage from the microtubules and form together with other tau threads. These tau threads then form structures called paired helical filaments, which combine with another, forming tangles within the cell. In the process, microtubules can disintegrate, collapsing the neuron's internal transport network. Collapsing damages the ability of neurons to communicate with each other. Now let's talk about genetic inheritance. Due to the fact that Alzheimer's is a genetic disorder, it is passed on through genes. The sporadic form of AD is surprisingly not linked to any obvious pattern of inheritance. However, researchers have found that there is an associated risk with the APOE gene on chromosome 19. There are three known forms or alleles of the gene called apolipoprotein E, APOE, that influence the risk of late onset AD. APOE 2, 3, and 4. 2 is a rarely occurring form that might provide some protection against AD. 3 is the most common form, which neither increases nor decreases the risk, and 4, which occurs in about 40% of all late onset developers, which increases the risk by lowering the age of onset. Another form of AD, familial AD, if AD is very rare, makes up 10% of all cases. It is considered to be early onset AD because it happens between 30 to 65 years of age, and an autosomal dominant form of the disease. So far, researchers have discovered 3 different gene mutations on 3 different chromosomes. Shockingly, this is only 50% of all cases. Lots more investigating to do. Sorry, Ms. Thull, but I know it has gone over time, but I still have to go over the very important part, which is diagnosis and treatment. No single tests exist to properly diagnose Alzheimer's disease. Oh my god. Therefore, doctors focus on ruling out all other possible causes of symptoms such as illnesses, psychological issues, and reactions to certain medications. Actually, there is only one definite way of diagnosing Alzheimer's, by examining brain tissue after he or she has died. There are no known proper treatments for AD, but there are some things that have recently shown positive results when used for AD patients. Huperzine A, omega-3 fatty acids, and phosphatidylserine, which slightly slows down the development of AD, degenerating of cells, and other known internal defects of AD. This is my bibliography in APA format, and thank you for listening to my long presentation.